Welcome to the party.
All right.
Sean and Dave. Dave's got a new computer. Dave, destroyer of technology, killer of machines.
We'll see if we can make it through one episode without technical problems.
Well, you're looking better. I mean, the camera is better than it has been. I don't know why.
It should be. I mean, the camera's the same, so
No,
I don't know.
machines got better throughput, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so hopefully it lasts, the 2 hours it takes to run run the podcast.
2. We're going for 6 tonight. All right. So if you're watching this, thank you for watching. This is Duluth Conservative. This is two guys in Minnesota that are not liberals. And I know it's hard to believe that's true, but it is true. We are talking about things that impact Duluth, Minnesota, things that impact the legislation, things that impact Duluth or Minnesota in general, national news, international news. We wrap up with some health and fitness, and I'll talk about some upcoming events as well. So are you ready, Mr. Janzig?
I believe so.
All right.
There's a lot to cover tonight. Well, actually, there isn't. We only got 7 pages show notes. So that's about half of what we normally have. So
I feel like you're mocking me.
Well, it's hard to say how deep we go into each topic, I guess, is what it boils down to.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to talk about before we start anything with any of the news is something that the wife and I were talking about in the car. And this is a fundamental thing about importing people from other countries into this country and then immediately having them go on welfare and having us take care of them, putting them on Minnesota health care. Somebody has got to pay for that, and that's you and me. And this is forcing people to work longer in their lives because it costs us a lot of money to take care of the world, especially in this state, which is what they seem to want to do. So people are holding on to their jobs longer, thereby not freeing them up, and being forced to work into their 70s at this point, not being able to retire and enjoy their lives when they still are physically able to, because every year after 65, probably every year after 60, you're going down a little bit, not drastically, hopefully, but you're going down. And, you look at pictures from when you were 50 to 60 and they're not as good. I know, but looking back to when I saw some pictures when I was 38, you don't notice it day to day, but you look a lot different than you did when you were 38.
Yeah.
And what happens is then people are hanging on to these jobs longer because they need to have the money. And then that doesn't free up the jobs for the younger people trying to come up and get those jobs. So it just kind of creates this horrible cycle. So it's bad for the people working and it's bad for the people who want jobs. And again, I've said this before, I don't like the idea of being forced to go to work to solve your social problems.
Right. And I seen a city councilor on the news last night, and he was basically talking about the same situation, but with houses. He says the trickle-down effect doesn't work. He says,
yeah, that's just wrong.
Yeah. He says you build an expensive house, someone moves up. That doesn't automatically mean the cheap house eventually becomes open. And I think even though he didn't say it, and I don't think he understands it, he was basically saying that corporations come in and buy the cheap houses and rent them out.
And this is a city councilor saying this?
Someone running for city council.
Somebody running for city. So what was his position about what to do about that? Did he say?
No, it was just a news thing on WDIO. I don't know. He didn't have any answers. One of those 10-second blurbs that they throw out there just to get his name across. So.
Right. Yeah, they don't seem to follow up with questions about once you say something, what's the background on that? What do you think we should do about it? As a city councilor, what would you do about it? Right. Those questions just don't come up. It's just a sensational, they said this. So
yeah.
So that's what I wanted to start off with. Just a topic to think about is the problem with having people coming in on our dole, having to pay for them as a person that I will have to work possibly 10 years longer than I should have to. I know people that have retired in their late 50s. I'm still going to be going into my late 60s, I'm sure, because
yeah.
If God willing, I can do it. That's the other thing.
Right, and we got a story later in the national news about what Democrats think of taxpayers and why we should bring in illegal immigrants.
Great.
So stick
All right.
around for that. There's a lot of swear words in it.
From you or from the
politician.
Oh, from the politician.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Is it Democrat?
Oh, of course.
Well, they seem to have thought that, and we'll get down to this when we're talking about Walz. They seem to think swearing is the way to get young people to get on board with what they're doing. So now it's, all of a sudden they just started swearing. I think we covered that in one of our shows.
Yeah. And now the Democrats no longer think that lifting weights or exercise is white supremacy. So
they don't think that anymore?
No. And I think they're just trying to find voters, so
anywhere they can.
Yeah.
All right.
They're missing the whole scope of that too. So
yeah. I don't even think I brought that up for the.
No.
Well, let's talk about it briefly in national if we remember it. Okay.
Yeah, I got to look more into it because for what I seen of it, it was laughable. So maybe next week.
Maybe next week.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Duluth news. You on the banners today?
Yeah, I think so. Got to do something.
Awesome. Canadian wildfires. This is the 5th freaking year in a row. In Duluth, Minnesota, you come to Duluth, you get 3 months tops of good weather.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what you like as far as weather goes, but it's usually cold and miserable and rainy. And then for 3 months, we get some warm, a lot of bugs, but we get some warm weather. It can be very nice weather. And as soon as we get that weather for the 5th year in a row, Canada's got wildfires and they're blowing smoke down on us for weeks. And our air quality goes from beautiful to unhealthy. It's severely unhealthy for the last few days. And, if you want to go running outside, you can. I mean, you could also smoke a couple packs of cigarettes and just go sit in your living room. So I went out running. My throat is raw after I do that. So now I'm running on a treadmill again inside in June. And I hate to say this, in 4 months, it could snow.
Oh, right. Yeah, definitely.
So it's just, can they get their stuff under control? Can they get their crap together? What is it about Canada that they cannot control this? This never happened when I was a kid growing up. I mean, randomly, maybe once I can remember it happening where we had these wildfires and it was smoking. 5 years in a row? Come on, guys.
Yeah, it really boils down to the same thing that America's having the problem with is letting the environmentalists run the agenda. Canada used to be good at cleaning out their woods, logging properly, creating fire breaks, but the environmentalists won all those challenges and said, no, we can't do that anymore. So now the loggers can't go in there, create fire breaks. So if there is a fire, it's in a small area. We're not talking, we're talking tens of acres, not thousands of acres.
Yeah, they need to do forestry management, and they need to get their response teams a little more, beefed up.
Correct.
So I actually have an article here that asks the question, because they blame it on climate change. So is it climate change or is it poor management? And they ask the question. I'll put that link in the description at the end. And the thing is, what they're saying is this is not climate change that's causing these fires to happen. It's poor management, poor response. They're too busy doing other things than to take care of this problem. And 1 year was bad, the first year, but everybody understood. The second year is like, what's going on? 5 years in a row. That's almost like an invasion from their country.
Right.
And when we talk about Canada being the 51st state, just as a little segue, God, no. I don't want another state full of liberals on social medicine coming up and saying, what you really need to do about this is let the fires burn. It just doesn't work. So,
yeah, and why isn't our attorney general suing them for poor air quality? Because
good question.
He's suing all the oil companies for climate change. This This is no different. There, we don't have bad air quality because of the oil companies, but we do have bad air quality, second worst in the world. Based on Canada's fires.
Yeah, every year.
Because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Not proper. You talk to an old time logger, and he'll tell you exactly how to do it, and he'll be right 99% of the times. Where the environmentalists go by a theory from the classroom.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
Well, they definitely need to do something about it, because I don't want 6 years in a row. I'd like to go outside, but it's been a haze just downtown. It was almost like fog.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Old Central. This beautiful deal. This is, if people don't know this, there was what is it called? The Red Plan. Was that it?
Yeah, I think so.
Now I'm a little biased. I went to Duluth Central High School. That was on top of the hill. Dave went there as well. My wife went there. Family went there. And the Duluth School Board, in its infinite wisdom, decided to shut that school down. So it was the newest school. It was one capable of taking most of the students from Denfeld, when they had to shut that down for a year so that they could build it up so it could contain the people from Central. Yeah. So they they shut the school down, and then it sat up there. And in fact, one of the schools here, one of the private schools, what is Edison? Is that the name of it?
I believe so.
Wanted to buy that property, and the school board went, no, you can't have a school up there. That would make us look bad. Yeah, so they actually bid over their asking price, and they didn't take it. So now that they decided last year or a couple of years ago, they were going to build up on it. Somebody bought it. They had a whole plan, shot through the city council. They're supposed to transform the Duluth Hilltop neighborhood. Well, guess what? It's crap. It's not happening. Yeah. Unless something's happened the last 2 days that I haven't heard of, that thing has fallen through. They've missed deadlines. They've missed payments. They're not going to do it.
Yeah, it was an 8-1 vote. So the one person that voted against them doing that is looking pretty bright now. But
yeah, I saw that. And the one person that was on the city council that was really for it and was mocking people for saying there was anything wrong was the real estate developer.
Yeah.
Make that of it what you will.
Yeah, but is the last I heard, they got 45 days to come up with, all these demands from the city council. Otherwise, it's a dead deal.
Yeah.
Well, they filed bankruptcy on another unit in Duluth, right? Like days after they did the grand opening ceremonies up there. So
I could have saw this coming.
Yeah, basically it's a dead deal as far as if I was to do an educated guess, it's a dead deal.
All right. Well, we'll see what comes up there. It's a beautiful piece of land. Problem is getting water up there, I believe, but we did it for the schools, so I don't know why it's a problem.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some sort of a path to get up there. So
maybe they'll sell it to Edison now.
No, because then they would admit they're wrong, and the city council is never wrong. They're geniuses.
Oh, city council didn't have anything to do with it. It was the school board that did it.
Well, yeah, but the city council had to sign off on it too. But either way, it's a complete, another government debacle.
Wait, I got a face for this. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Let's round out the Duluth news. Special city council meeting for the outdoor living at the church. So there was the church in Kenwood that said, "Oh no, yeah, we can take all your homeless people regardless of what the neighborhood thinks." And the neighbors went, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." Yeah. And then the city council said, "Well, that's fine. Go ahead." And the neighbors went, "Whoa, wait a second. We don't like this idea." So right now, if I'd have known, we'd have done a live segment over there. They're talking about it right now, about having the homeless people living in the parking lot of that church, and then being able to use the church for washrooms and so forth, and showers. So
plus they brought in some other portables too.
Oh, Sure.
but still.
My question is, why does it have to be here in a residential neighborhood? We got plenty of places down in the dock area, down in places that aren't populated. Got straps of land there. Put porta potties out there. Let them go crazy out there. They're not hurting anybody. They're not coming around the city. But the question I asked last week, which is still a valid question, is sure, you make them leave in the morning, but where do they go? They're not leaving. They're not going very far.
No, definitely
So
not.
they're right there in Kenwood. They're right there in the neighborhood. I'm hoping the city councilors that actually live in the area are understanding of what the people in that area want and are voting accordingly. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's what tonight's meeting is about, is basically to affirm or deny the lawsuit for them to do that, to be homeless, on site, the safe, what do you call it? The safe
haven.
Safe haven, yeah. So that's what tonight's meeting's about. It started at 6:00, so
All right.
we know that it was a 9-0 vote the first time, so it's going to be exactly the same. So
Well, I think they're going to listen a little harder this time, and I'm hoping that people in the neighborhood are out talking about it and making an impact.
Which is not good, because they had to hire a lawyer to put a stop to it. So something that shouldn't have cost them any money is costing them to hire a lawyer to be there to represent them. It's still, are they going to get that money back? No, they're getting, so
some of those city councilors are up for election this November. So I hope that people keep that in mind and watch the vote and what they're doing. This is a very direct impact vote that they're having.
correct.
And you're going to know exactly where they stand on what you think, depending on how they vote for this bill or this permit.
Yeah.
Okay. Minnesota Legislature. Let's move on to that. So, do you know anything about what's going on in special session?
I was looking into it this afternoon, and right now there is nothing planned. According to WDIO on Sunday, they said that there's 9 special committees within the budget that have to agree on something, and they're at only 67% are unagreed. So only 33% agreed to a thing, and so 3 of the 9 agreed. There's still 6 committees out that do not haven't agreed to what's going on yet.
Okay.
The public notices for state workers have gone out, or they've been written. I don't know if they've gone out, but they've been written, because they were supposed to go out on the June 1st. So if we don't have a budget signed by the end of June, July 1st, all these people are laid off.
Okay.
So right now, last I heard, nothing's planned, no special sessions going on. It's just business as unusual, and in privacy too. So we can't keep a track of what they're doing.
Well, yeah, because that's just the thing. It's crazy that they're able to do this in secret by some kind of backdoor law. I don't know why. I mean, I can see if my representative came home and said, well, I'm not participating unless it's in front of the public, I could respect that.
Yeah. And so now they're making backroom deals that we don't know about and lining their pockets or doing something for themselves to get reelected.
Well, I heard Walz is taking the hard line on men and women's sports. Like he wants that for sure. That's what I understand. I could be wrong.
I haven't heard that, but I could see that. And one of the biggest problems was Walz is never around. Saturday and Sunday, he was in South Carolina and California, trying to run for president. Instead, the state's in a precarious situation where they need him around to actually lead, and he's not leading. He's absent.
We'll have a couple of Walz stories coming up, which is fun. Let's wrap it up with the legislature, because I only had one thing on here, which is HF 16, sponsored by Max Reimer from North Branch, Republican. And it says law enforcement agencies and government agencies in Minnesota would be restricted from creating ordinances, regulations, and policies that limit or prohibit government employees from communicating with federal officials about the immigration status of individuals. And this is a direct response to the Minnesota legislature's trying to pass these sanctuary state laws and make it so that Minnesota lawmakers can't talk to federal agents and can't help them participate in raids and can't tell them about illegal aliens. And they tried to pass this last year when they had the supermajority. They didn't get it through. So it's thank God for that. But, that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
So Ben Gleekle of the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota said the following: "This bill will make all people residing in Minnesota less safe. Non-citizens and citizen victims of domestic violence and trafficking will suffer the most." Can you explain that one to me? They will not risk calling local law enforcement to report a crime if they know that it means their family will be separated or that they themselves might be apprehended. So let me tell you about this. You're afraid of calling the police because you might be separated from the person that's abusing you. That's ridiculous. And number two, if you are in the country illegally, you should be worried about getting arrested every single day. And if I went to another country illegally, I should feel the same way. If you sneak into a movie theater, you should feel like you're going to get caught and thrown out at any second.
Correct.
Or don't do it. You have a country to live in. Go live in your country.
Yeah, go break the law in your own country.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
So, I mean, that argument is just, it's garbage to me. I just don't believe
garbage.
it. If somebody's listening to this and they think I'm wrong, put a comment in. Let me know. I understand, but I understand the argument, unless I don't understand their argument, which is, they won't call the police if there's a problem because there's they're going to get apprehended or the person is going to get deported. I understand that's the argument.
Yeah,
I don't agree with it.
No, because you can still report crimes anonymously. So
even so, I mean,
yeah.
All right. Let's move on. My favorite topic is he is becoming my favorite guy in the world, actually. Our Governor Walz is, like he was saying, in South Carolina, not dealing with whatever, we haven't got a budget yet, but hey, that doesn't matter.
No,
it's Timmy. And he's talking tough now. And now he's learned that swearing is the thing to do. So let me just bring this up. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz sought to energize activists at a Democratic state convention in South Carolina. Walz, a former school teacher who went on to serve in Congress, keynoted at this gathering. Walz used colorful language and spoke plainly as he lobbed criticism at President Donald Trump. "Maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner," Walz said to applause from the crowd. "When it's a bully like Trump, you bully the S out of him. This is a cruel man." So tough guy Tim Walz. I mean, he's just too masculine for me. I'm threatened by him. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, and he's such a man, but yet he won't go up against Tyrus or this mayor of Georgia, Kane. They offered to do a charity, AWA wrestling match, but he wasn't man enough to do that. He'll stand in front of a bunch of liberal clowns, and say big words, but he won't.
You know what that tells me, Dave? He's not as stupid as I thought he was.
Yeah.
Because he would get absolutely shellacked by those guys.
Yeah.
There's another story with Tim. He's figured it out. Ready? Let me know if you can hear this.
I say this because I'm proud to say it looks like as of next Tuesday, I'm going to have a high school graduate with my son, Gus. And he's pretty in tune to this. But when he said this, he said, "Dad, a lot of these young guys, especially, said they're not voting on the policy issues." And he wasn't dissing them. He said they may know the policy issues, but most of them don't. They're doing it because there's a sense of excitement, a sense of thrill in this. It's entertainment or whatever. We all dismiss that. Donald Trump's a clown. Donald Trump's rallies are a clown. this MMA fighting stuff and this, and look, you start veering in.
Donald Trump's rallies are a clown. What does that mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, but he's not dissing them, Dan, man.
No.
Yeah, he's in with the kids, man. That's Tim. He knows his stuff. He knows his lingo.
To the Andrew Tate stuff, which is dangerous misogyny and, assault issues and all of that. But there's a peripheral side of that is not criminal, but is still going down the same road of saying you got a place to belong. And I think, this is me just pontificating for what it's worth. Social media and other things have disconnected people more than they were. We were more connected in my generation. It was easier to be a kid when I was growing up. And I've always said this as a teacher: if you don't give a kid a place to belong, they'll go find one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I kind of thought about this off on a tangent. One, his kid has severe autism, and his kid's smarter than him because he knows that, he knows that people like to belong and people like to be around winners. And that's not the Democratic Party nowadays. But two, we discussed this when you were campaigning, that people don't know the issues. People didn't know that Tim turned a blind eye when Feeding Our Future fraud scandal was going on.
Right.
You talked about these issues to people, and the people didn't know what was going on.
They were completely clueless when we were talking about that.
Yeah, and so his kid was basically right. There are a few people who know the issues, but if we could get the issues out there more, that would be.
You want to know something even
Democrat
worse?
Party.
You want to know something? A city councilor I was talking to didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And it had been news, like big news in the last week or so. She had no idea what I was talking about when I was telling her about a Feed Our Future scandal or any of the other scandals. That's a city councilor. How could they not know that?
Right. So his severely autistic kid who, doesn't, is lucky to graduate, is smarter than our governor.
No.
He understood it more than the governor did.
Yeah.
And so
All right.
he's in the wrong world.
I want to bring up another one that you brought up here. Trump dismantles DEI. Walz doubles down. State offers 6-figure salary to DEI supervisor. Offers a 6-figure salary of our money.
Yep.
To something that is useless.
Basically, Trump dismantled it because it was it was racist and a waste of time, and Walz does it anyways. Just mostly, I would say, out of spite. And then with that kind of salaries, he's really just trying to take it to the tax-paying consumer, basically.
Right. I was in a forum when I was running, and somebody asked me, "Why do you hate DEI?" And I thought about it. I said, "I don't hate DEI. I just don't want to pay for it, and I don't want to be a victim of it."
Yeah.
Now, if you want to make a culture in your company where everybody feels included, you should do that blindly. That shouldn't be something where I've seen in companies where they say, "Well, we've done this and we've seen this percentage of this race is in this position. We can do better. We should hire more." That's what I'm talking about. It's when you start getting quotas and percentages. If you've got a problem where somebody is coming up and saying, "I don't feel included here," go investigate it. Everybody should feel okay going to work within reason. I mean, you can't coddle everybody, but it's not that I hate DEI or whatever. It's trying to get people to be equal. That's fine. It's just when you're implementing it so that you can say, well, this person needs to get pushed down, so these people should be pushed up. That's where the problem comes in line. And I don't see why we would have anybody in charge of any group that isn't just part of if the head of HR is on a DEI committee, that's one thing. If you've got a DEI person, that's all their job is, guess what? They're going to find a reason to justify their job. And that's going to be to make sure that you're rooted. So this group is rooted out. They'll find a group. Sooner or later, you're going to be on that group. I don't know what it is.
Right. And that's where the Democrats also fail on the economy too. They think that for someone to be rich, that means someone else they have to steal from somebody else.
Right.
but that's not how it works. And so you can bring everybody up if you get the right person in the right position.
Right.
And that will get everybody better. DEI doesn't need to be included into that. That's why Trump just kind of got rid of it, because they were wasting money on.
Well, they're using it as a hammer to beat down anything they don't like. And it's very specifically for certain people.
Right. The government's not supposed to be racist, so.
Not supposed to be colorblind. That's how we were raised. They changed it since we were in school.
Right.
All right. Anything else with Timmy?
No, he's. I did see a one thing that had a clock by his face that says how many days since he's last embarrassed Minnesota, and it was stuck at 0. So.
All right, let's move on to Minnesota news then. I don't know if you saw it, but there was ICE raids downtown in Minneapolis. The ICE agents showed up. They were masked up. They went in force, and then the protesters gathered around. I don't know how they found out about it, but they showed up. It's an interesting thing when it happens in a sanctuary state like Minnesota. That means that we are on the radar, which is good. I don't know the particulars of why that person was being arrested or what they were doing. I don't know if this is an illegal alien, if this is an arrest of some, federal law breaking. And I don't think the protesters knew either. They just were out there in force to protest something.
Yeah, I seen it last night, and I couldn't find the news article for today's presentation. But there's a black female sheriff in that area, and what she was saying was the state was cooperating with ICE because they were trying to apprehend a child trafficker. Someone was trafficking humans, and so that's why they were helping out, because they were trying to stop human trafficking. They weren't trying to deport anybody. He happened to be an illegal, but they were trying to stop someone from human trafficking. And if you're for human trafficking, then you have the problem. And that's what she said. The sheriff, she says, we're going to help ICE if there's an actual or a different crime involved, and that's what was happening.
Yeah,
they were trying to stop a crime. They got this guy, and then the protesters came out, and and then to say it's morally wrong, that's morally wrong.
I got a quote here that says, one second, I got to turn off this alarm. I got a quote from a protester. Now, this is an anonymous protester quote, but it says, when you have people coming in with massive guns into our neighborhoods with Department of Homeland Security and ICE badges, and you have the Minneapolis Police Department literally closing out the perimeter, assisting them, that's just morally wrong. I don't understand what's morally wrong about that. I understand that you don't like it, but what is morally wrong about that situation? Does anybody watching have any ideas with that? Please place a comment in, but I don't agree with that at all. I don't particularly like the fact that they're masking these agents, but given the violence that the liberals have shown towards conservatives, I can see why they're doing it. I think I saw Hakeem Jeffries saying that they were going to unmask all these guys, or unmask them all. And then what they're going to do is dox them, and then God knows what. So,
yeah, they already had a situation, and I can't remember what state now, where they released all the home addresses of the ICE agents. So, they're just trying to do their job to keep America safe, and you've got some liberal who doesn't like it.
Right.
So they're doxing them and, having their families threatened. So.
Okay. So let's move on to Ilhan Omar. Minnesota Republican State Representative Steve Drazkowski is calling her out. He's been doing this for years. He's professionally going against Omar, as far as I can tell, because this has been a few years now.
Yeah.
He's demanding the arrest of Ilhan Omar for crimes including federal tax fraud, federal immigration fraud, federal and state student loan fraud, federal and state violations of perjury, bigamy, incest, kickbacks, and campaign finance abuse spanning from the East Coast to the Mississippi River, Boston, Washington, New York, Chicago, and Florida. Besides that, she's fine.
Yeah, she's a good person.
Yeah. Besides all that, she's doing a great job. But if she's guilty of this stuff, why is she being prosecuted? Besides the fact that we've got Ellison as the DA here, is that the reason?
Oh yeah, because he's got 23 lawsuits against Trump. Even though Biden was breaking Minnesota law, he didn't put any lawsuits against the Biden administration.
Yeah.
So we're back to our tier system of Minnesota laws, and that's tier 1 where they're just going to ignore it.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens. I would shed a tear if Ilian didn't have her job anymore. It would just depress me, because who would step up? I mean, we've got this group, this pack of people that are from Minnesota that are like the worst politician ever. You got Walz, and you got Klobuchar, and you got Omar, and you got, somebody, that one woman that's in jail for stealing from her mother-in-law, or she's going to trial.
Yeah, she's going to trial in a couple of weeks, and
you got the guy who was trying to hook up with a 17-year-old. That was a Republican. You just got the cream of the crop. I'm so pleased about our people here. I want to bring up this next article, and this one is kind of out of the ordinary, but I thought it was very interesting. So there's a Grand Marais man who was ruled incompetent to stand trial for homicide. So what this guy was doing was he was finding sex offenders and killing them. And he felt it was his moral obligation to do so. And Turner saw evidence of delusional thinking, said he was feeling that he was a hero and he had to get rid of the sex offenders to make the world a better place. And factually, does he understand the law? Yes. Does he know it's illegal? Yes. Does he believe he was wrong? No. That's how they're keeping him as incompetent to stand trial, just because he believes what he did was the right thing to do. And I just found that completely odd. There's lots of people that break the law thinking that's the right thing to do. You don't make them seem like they're incompetent. It says under the Minnesota, this is his lawyer that's trying to keep him as incompetent to stand trial too. Under Minnesota rules of criminal procedure, the burden was on the Minnesota Attorney General's office and Cook County's office to prove that he is competent. And his attorneys maintain he remains unfit for trial. The ruling keeps the criminal case indefinitely suspended. So this guy is lingering in jail. I wonder if he is really on board with this or not, or if this is just some plan to keep him so he never gets out. I think he's killed some people in jail already because they were sex offenders. But I think there's a difference between incompetence and just not agreeing with what you think is morally right and wrong.
Yeah, because even in the is it Moose Lake or still one of the prisons, the sex offender prison in Minnesota, a lot of the guys are being held beyond their time because the wardens basically think they're going to reoffend.
Yeah, but
it's about the same as him. As he committed a crime, so they're going to put him in with the other sex offenders and try to rehabilitate him. But then they're just not going to let him out until he understands that he
agrees with them.
Correct.
I'm going to try to shut my shade here while I go. Perfect Duluth weather here, Dave. It's raining and sunny.
So it should be snowing too. I'm looking out the window somewhere. It's got to be. Maybe on top of the hill it's snowing.
Not yet.
No.
Soon. Let's see. Minnesota Pollution Control Agency mandates DEI training for all staff. So the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, what does DEI have to do with that? It's requiring all employees to complete a 3-hour DEI training, cultivating a culture of belonging by year's end. God, I miss the 90s. In the 90s, it was great working places. It was just all out, just go in there and be as offensive as possible. not be as offensive as possible. People were so much less offended by things, and it was so great working back then. I mean, I started working in offices at the time when people still smoked in their offices. That's how far back I go. And that was cool too. I didn't like smoke. I don't like smoke, but letting somebody smoke in their own office was cool. But I don't know what DEI training for staff of the Minnesota Pollution Control has to do with anything that's helping us as a city, as a state.
No, I think this is part of Walz's anti-Trump movement. We're against Trump, and Trump believes this. So, all Trump has to do is say this sky is blue, and Walz is going to make sure it's green or yellow or something else.
Right.
So,
2 employees said that Minnesota state workers are required to complete 6 hours of DEI training annually, and some put as many as 10 to 13 hours. MPCA employees alone have racked up thousands and thousands of hours in DEI training since 2020. The tipster explained. This is our money going for absolutely nothing. It's crazy talk.
Well, right, because they're not the typical MPCA employee isn't hiring anyone, so they're not doing promotions, or they work with minorities, but they're not promoting them. So we're paying for thousands and thousands of hours of non-productive work, basically.
It's for people to go and not have to do their job, and so they don't care. They're going to these meetings. They're not actually participating, probably.
Yeah, it's more than likely that's the way it works.
I got one more thing for Minnesota, and then we'll move on to national. Amazon suspends Minnesota project amid impending repeal of tax exemptions for data centers. We talked a little bit about this, but I did find an article, and I'll put this in. In 2024, Amazon purchased more than 300 acres in Becker with plans to develop a data center. Becker? I think that's where my sister-in-law has moved to. It's a nice area.
Yeah, it's northwest of the Twin Cities, up 94, like a quarter of the way up towards St. Cloud from the Twin Cities, and they've got a furniture store there the size of the Miller Hill Mall, basically, just gigantic.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I've been there a few times.
So if Amazon doesn't put the data center there, we're going to lose money and jobs. Congratulations. So they were promised this, and then by Walz, and he backed out on that. Anything else from Minnesota news?
No, just another embarrassing week from Walz, and we're paying all of our politicians not to do anything this week. So
let's move on to national news then. We're gonna have a short episode today. Trouble in paradise. That's what I put under my notes. Have you seen this Elon Musk and Donald Trump feud going on right now?
Just a little bit today. It's kind of strange, but
I was sitting there going, whew, that really escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of control. Holy cow. Elon Musk is calling Trump out for being on the Epstein list. What happened?
Really?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what happened, guys? Oh, man. Somebody didn't get a second scoop of ice cream or something. So I don't know what's going on with those guys, but they are not happy with each other. So I know that Elon is not happy with what's going on with this. They call it the big, beautiful bill. He doesn't like all the spending, and I couldn't agree with that more. I don't like all the spending. At the same time, I understand the flip side is reality says we should cut it down, and that's what they should be voting on. Reality says they'll never do that, so we got to get them where we can. And that the bill has things, has good and bad, just like any other omnibus bill like that. It has good things about immigration laws. It has bad things about AI. Is it any worse than the bills they've been pushing the last few years? Probably not. So I understand Elon's point to that, and I understand Trump's point of putting it on there. And also he's cutting all these benefits of the electric vehicles. So all the subsidies, which I agree with that. And Elon doesn't agree with that. Him being the owner of a company that has a lot to do with that, of course he's not going to like it. So I can see where the rift is coming in, and I can see both sides of it and how neither one of them is wrong. Both are right in some areas and both are wrong in some areas. I don't know. I don't know that both are wrong in either area. I do disagree with Elon's view of the visas and having so many people come into this country and do the technical jobs where we should be building up that internally.
Right.
And I talked about this before, but when I was at university, they were very proud about pulling in all these people from other countries to come go to school here and get their master's degree. And when I asked the question, what are you doing to try to get the people locally, from the Duluth area and out in the tribe and everything to come in, there was nothing being done. It was all about getting the international students because they bring in a lot of money.
Right.
So that's the same thing. We have the talent here. We have people capable of doing this stuff. We need the jobs, and we need good paying jobs. And not when you're going against contractors from India, let's say, they bring the cost or the price way down, way down. And, when I was working at, I won't say the company name, I was doing contracting work. They had a group of people, and I think they had 20 people from India living in this 2-bedroom apartment, which I don't even think is legal, but that's what they did.
Yeah.
They could do it because they weren't making much money, but they would do it because it wasn't much different from what the guy was telling me from living at home. And, that's going to kill us. If we need to be able to have people in the United States being trained for these good jobs and then taking the good jobs and only supplementing a small portion from visas.
Right. And for some reason, Duluth went from a industry town, a shipping town, to a tourist town.
Mm-hmm.
So tourism, you have, basically t-shirt shops. So the owner might be making decent money, but he's paying his employees pretty close to minimum wage. So they can't afford a house in Duluth. So then you have this big economic difference between the top and the bottom, where if you pushed the manufacturing side of it, because they forced Gino Palucci and McLeany's and they forced him out,
mm-hmm.
and those were good manufacturing jobs.
Yeah.
For some reason they didn't like him because they couldn't control him, so they forced him out. So we lost manufacturing jobs, and that place closed. And we got to get back to manufacturing so we can get. We load it on the ships. We have a place to load it on ships to send it out worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
We have rail system right here where we can send it worldwide, but we can't just. We're not a tourist town. We can't do that. It only helps a smaller few.
Right. I don't know how we got to that from Elon Musk and Donald Trump, but I agree with you.
Well,
that was a sharp left turn onto it.
No, but you're still talking about a business owner that's doing economics, and so a politician that still has to, make everybody happy.
Do you want to know what the funny thing is about this whole feud, though? Because Elon said that Trump was on the Epstein list, I saw one Democrat tweet that says, release the Epstein list. So now they're getting on behind it. And I couldn't agree more. And I've said this before, it depends. The list is not necessarily a definitive thing. Yeah. I can give a pass to somebody, and this is being kind because I cannot stand what they were doing out there. You go out to that island once, you may not know what you're getting into. You're just taking a free plane ride over there. So if you're on a list of a person taking a free plane ride out there, that's one thing. If you go a second time, I'm pretty sure you're dirty. That's where I'm getting at. If you're on his plane going somewhere else, that doesn't necessarily mean guilt. They have a lot of evidence of showing, I think even video evidence of what these people were doing. Use that. I don't care about a list. Right. I care about actions and who they're blackmailing and who they can get, and then put those people in jail. And I don't care who it is.
Well, Trump said he was on the list, but then he either went out there and seen how horrible it was and came back, but he never went out there again. And he started warning people after that not to go out there.
I didn't even know he had gone out to the island, honestly. I thought he was on his plane once and that was it.
Well, those two met, and Trump did not like the guy from the start and wouldn't go with him to a certain point. But Trump admitted that he knew the guy at one point.
Yeah, well, there's pictures of them together, and he did kick him out of Margalo. He banned him from him a long time before any of this other stuff came up, before the first time he was convicted.
Right. Yep.
But again, and you can forgive people or give them the benefit of the doubt if they're on it once. The second time, I really have a hard time believing you didn't know what was going on.
Correct.
But I would like to, instead of just getting a list, which means nothing, I'd like to see evidence. They have countless hours of videotape and everything. Bring that out and start pulling those people in.
Yep.
I'm going to move on to, do you have anything else to say about the
No, that should cover.
fight? I'm going to talk about this guy who was running around setting Jewish people on fire.
Oh, yeah.
So apparently he went and did this video right before. So it's a minute 20. I don't think I'm going to play the whole thing, but let me just give you a little taste of it.
من كل شيء الله أكبر من الصهاينة الله أكبر من أمريكا وأسلحتها الله أكبر من طائرات الإف-35 الله أكبر مما هو دونه فلما نخشى ما دونه ولا نخشى الله.
I don't want to go on, but yeah, this guy did this video, and then he went and threw Molotov cocktails and burned a bunch of people, and psychotic.
Definitely.
My question is, he's posting this video and then he's doing this clearly egregious act. Is this a false flag? Is this set up so that there's some sort of reaction to it? I mean, I haven't seen a big reaction to it except for people calling it what it is, which is insanity.
Yeah, that's basically all I've seen. And he did set himself on fire, but I think that was accidental.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He took his shirt off quite quickly.
Yeah, there's video of him setting himself on fire, which psychotic.
And then he was an illegal and his family was illegal, and the ICE went and arrested his family.
Right.
And a lot of people are saying that was a bad thing because the family had nothing to do with it. But they've already proven that he's been talking about this for a year and a half, 2 years. It's like, well, you've known this guy, you've seen this guy every day for the last 2 years. You've had to have known something was going on. So,
well, there's a judge that blocked it. So they're going to deport him right away. Of course, the judge stepped in because that's who we elected to run things.
Yeah.
Speaking of judges, let's see. Put this one up here. We have over 130 retired judges filed a legal brief demanding that Judge Hannah Dugan's charges be dropped. This is the woman that helped an illegal alien outside of a backyard, the back door of a courthouse, when he was being tried for assaulting two people. While those people were in the courthouse itself, she smuggled them out. And they say she has absolute immunity for her official acts. She has absolute immunity to smuggle a criminal out the back door. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
That's the thing that's scary to me is that's 130 judges think that.
Yeah, they definitely have convinced themselves they're above the law. And
holy cow, no kidding.
Yeah, I mean, and especially for someone like that who knows the law, who's supposedly supposed to know the law, you're supposed to follow the law and help, bring these people to justice, not help them escape.
Right. Somehow my list got screwed up here, so we're going to keep winging it through, but I got the same article on every single page now. All right, let's go on to...
Yeah, mine moved to...
All right.
I don't know where's mine's going.
All right, so...
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
I want to give a little example of the media and manipulating a story. And I thought this woman that they were interviewing was pretty interesting. So I don't know if I'll show the same. It's 4 minutes. I'm not going to show the same thing. I'll just show the beginning of it.
Law to accept federal funds.
What would make this fair for her to compete for those who are competing against her? What would that kind of structure in competition look like?
Who is her?
AB.
Okay, AB Hernandez is a male who identifies as a female. What would be fair is to have Hernandez competing in the male category. It is not fair to the females competing to have to compete with a male.
Okay, so in Trump's federal funding threat, is that something, though, that would hurt all student athletes? And
So that was what I wanted to show. So I totally agree that boys should not be in women's sports. And what she said was, to effect, what is fair is she either competes with males or they come up with a third category for
Right.
transgenders and they compete together. I agree with both of those. The interesting thing to me was that the reporter, knowing full well that this is a boy, kept calling it her, kept calling Hernandez her. And she kept having to get corrected from it. They're pushing this narrative, pushing it every time until it gets normalized. And I think that's just the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, I agree completely. It just, what are they trying to normalize? I think, are we waiting for someone to get seriously hurt or die by one of these interactions on the sporting field?
Right. Good question. I mean,
they're having the same problem in Minnesota in a situation, and so at the state tournament. So what is the state tournament? Does the other teams that go against her, they get six guys to pretend they're women,
right?
So it's fair. I don't know what the answer is, but at the speed that they're throwing the balls, they should be, they're going to hurt somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then what is it? Is it assault?
Well, look at that boxer in the Olympics.
Yeah.
He beat that woman almost to death. It looked like.
Right.
How are you proud about that? It's like playing video games with all the cheat codes on. You're not actually playing. You're just, walking through it. I don't know how people can stand themselves.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is how do you justify your own life, basically, if that's what you're going to do.
Right.
So.
Well, here's just one more thing about narrative. This is the same person on the same day, 2 headlines. Stocks slide as tariff tensions reignite. U.S. stocks push higher despite renewed tariff tensions. They're going to tie this, good or bad. It's going to be bad. It does. If they go up, it's bad. If they go down, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Make sure you got that in your head because that's what's being pushed. Make sure you know everything is bad. Are you agitated today? You should be because everything's bad. Be agitated. Be angry. They don't let you have peace.
No, and that's how they're going to win elections is by aggravating people, convincing that it's bad when it's not bad.
That's why you motivate people to get out and do things, I suppose, is to make sure they're agitated. And then that's why you get people in the street screaming at the top of their lungs about stuff. And
go to the weekly Stauber protests up in Hermantown.
Yeah.
And just read the signs because there's no one idea there. It's every idea. So
on professionally made posters.
Yeah, so they're not arguing one thing; they're arguing everything because they don't know what they're supposed to be upset about this week. No one sent them the memo.
Right.
So,
well, that's going to be the interesting thing about Trump and Musk. Are they going to drive around in their Teslas now with the swastikas, scratched onto the sides? Is that what's going to happen?
Right.
I mean, there's some of them just spinning around in chairs right now. Going, I don't know who do I hate now? Which one is wrong?
Yeah. Can Trump can he even drive a car? I mean,
is he? No, I don't. You're not allowed to drive a car as president.
No, but even when he was a billionaire, housing developer in New York, he always had a limousine.
Oh, could you or would you? There's 2 different things.
Yeah.
He could drive a car. He gets driven around. He get other stuff done. He doesn't have to worry about traffic. So I highly doubt he's driven very much. I'm going to show you a video here, and I just got a kick out of this. I remember this is not brand new. This is a little old. I just try to figure out which screen it is. I think it's this one. Yeah. It's only 38 seconds, so I'll play the whole thing.
Straight white men having the power and everything, and it's like we as women of color, as like students at this university, like we're very much capable of certain things, and we don't have the same privileges that are offered to straight white men.
And I've been hearing that from a lot of the ladies that I've been talking to today. Talk to me about what some of those privileges are that, straight white men have that you don't have. Talk to me about that.
I think I don't really know. Have you ever experienced like a specific instance?
Abort! Abort!
I also need to go. I know, I do need to go. I'm sorry.
I just get the biggest kick out of that. I'm angry. I don't know why.
Yeah. I was reading an opinion letter, like a reader's opinion letter in the News Tribune this week, or today it might have been, and they were talking about transgender rights.
Yeah.
But the whole letter never said what rights they were losing, or what's being taken away. Trump is horrible. We understand that, but what is he actually taking away that you're mad about?
I've asked
they
that.
never said.
I've asked that too, and I can't get an answer to that.
Yeah, and then that video perfectly explains it. It's like,
that's good stuff, man.
yeah.
I got this next one. I don't know what this is. I think you put this on here.
Yeah.
I might as well just present it and let people.
I'm not sure where we are because now my show list is all
Here we go.
goofy.
I don't know if this is going to play without ads or what.
Yeah.
I'm really liking the ads on the side though. That's good stuff.
America is built on hard work and powered by American
2, 1.
energy. Chevron fuels communities nationwide.
Our economy is completely bound up in immigration and migrant labor. And of course, we have to come to a place in Congress where it is no longer a political issue, but we see it as an existential issue for the country. If we don't have avenues for people to come here legally to work or to build a home here, I'm going to be really crude right now. We're not going to have anybody around to wipe our asses because we don't have enough people in our country now to fill the jobs that we have.
What?
Yeah.
What? What?
Yeah. First off, I don't need anybody to wipe my ass, much less an illegal.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Me too. I was just gonna say.
And you're right. What is she talking about? Oh, that's an argument for illegal immigration we just need to let people in so someone else does all the garbage work.
I know one thing. I don't want to work for her.
No.
Jesus. That's something.
And that's your atypical Democrat politician for what I've been able to see.
Wow.
It just but it shows you how they think of people nowadays.
Yeah, no kidding. I have another thing here, but I'm not going to play the video because it's going to be just as bad as his last one was. Being that it was getting too caught up. So
yeah.
Oh, I don't want to do that. I was almost closed my whole thing. It's the article is this Connecticut state rep was forced to stop reading a porn book she found in the school library. And I found this article too, and I had another video of it. This guy who is one of the legislators comes up and he's just adamantly angry. How dare you read this in front of us? We should never stoop this low to have this kind of graphic content read on these sacred floors in front of us. And the whole point is, this is a book in a elementary school that kids can have access to and read.
Right.
If it's too vulgar for you adults in the Senate, and anything vulgar to politicians is beyond me, then no, it shouldn't be in the school where the kids are. And I think that's the whole point, right? That what
should have
they're
been the
trying
point.
to say.
Yeah.
But for them to come out and say, you can't read this to me. I'm just an adult. Well, thank you. Are you on my side now? We can't have these books in the elementary schools either for the kids.
And that article goes on to talk about other Democrats defending the Democrats and saying that the Republican was embarrassing other Republicans for reading that kind of garbage.
Yeah. It's just, it's unbelievable. And it's not the first time I've heard this. I can't believe I'm seeing it again.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to skip down. I'm going to briefly talk about this. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs vetoes a bill to prevent CCP, the Chinese, from buying land in Arizona, especially next to military bases. I think Katie is showing that she is exactly the person that we all feared she was, which is she is being run by somebody else. She beat Carrie Lake. I don't even know how. She's unqualified. She didn't actually run a campaign, just like Tim Walz didn't, and still won the election in a very red state. Katie Hobbs is governor. So she doesn't think it's good enough. So she won't ban the Chinese from buying farmland in Arizona, especially next to military bases.
And they shouldn't be buying farmland at all, because we don't want to. We need to be in control of all of our energy and all of our food. It's
absolutely.
If there's a safe, a national security issue with all of this, that's a simple one.
Yeah, that's a hard stop as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I'm going to put up your favorite article now. Michael Moore. It's been a while since we saw this dude. He's still wearing the same old wig he was wearing back in the 80s, Yeah. And he's come up with a new Pledge of Allegiance. And let's see. Here it is.
There it is. Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the people of the United States of America and to the democracy for which we all stand. One person, one vote, one nation, part of one world. Everyone, a seat at the table. Everyone, a slice of the pie. And you're right, Dave, because he's mentioned pie. We know that actually was Michael Moore that wrote it. With liberty and justice, equality and kindness, and the pursuit of happiness for all. So I thought I just mentioned this law professor.
See, even the dog is laughing.
Jonathan Turley commented. And he said, as an initial matter, I fail to see how the nation is embodied by a run-on sentence that has more exclamation marks than a preteen's text to BFFs. I thought that was great. And the dog laughed. Yeah.
Yep, and the dog laughed.
But yeah, there he is. There's his thing. It's oh, Michael.
Luckily,
don't ever change.
Luckily he's just a good laugh. He isn't actually a serious human being anymore. So
and then call for unity by a particularly curious from a person who has labeled Republicans as racist and consistently engaged in rage rhetoric. That's true. Yeah. That wasn't my words. All right. I'm good with national news. How you doing? We done?
Yeah, that pretty much covers it. Plus the show notes are just all over the place. So hopefully international news will be much easier to follow.
Yeah, international news. So I thought this was very interesting. And this may be something, one of the reasons we're doing this podcast or this show is to kind of show people or tell people about news they might not have heard. And that stems from me having conversations with people in my family where I would bring up these news articles and they go, I don't know anything about that. Right. So interesting thing about Canada, it says 1 in 20 deaths in Canada are now assisted suicide. 1 in 20. At the same time, in a unrelated article, about 2% of the Canadian population has arrived since the beginning of this year. They imported 800 and some thousand people into Canada. So they're killing with assisted suicide. They're killing the current residents and they're importing the others. And you can't tell me that this is not a replacement theory. You know, this is a replacement theory. You can call it a conspiracy theory or not, but it sure seems like this is intentional. Like they are trying to kill off the population and import another population. And I don't even have specifics of who it is, and I don't care. You can't absorb through 2% of your entire population in 3, 4, 5 months and expect them to assimilate into your population and be a benefit to you. That's an invasion.
Correct.
And the thing that's most concerning to me is they're on top of us. They're our cap. And you replace them with enough people, and then now they've become a security threat to us. And now there's talk about, yeah, they should be the 51st state, which would be an utter disaster.
Well, my thought on it was the assisted suicide was supposed to be for terminally ill patients that weren't going to. So are you saying 1 in 20? You know, that's
look,
5% of their population is.
There was a woman who couldn't get a thing from the government. It was like an assisted walker or something. And so she was just calling up to try to get it. And they actually said, well, have you thought about suicide? I mean, no, I would just like my walker, really. I don't prefer not to kill myself over it, but that's Canada right now. And it's concerning because, like I said, 800,000 people, it doesn't have that many people in Canada to begin with. Where are they putting them? How are they assimilating? How are they coming in? Now, all this, I don't know how their socialist welfare healthcare system is absorbing that either. I mean, I already heard horror stories about how long you had to wait in line to get in to see the doctor for routine things or major medical things. Right. Now you've got, 800,000 more people in the first 5 months of the year. What's going on with that? Where's the housing coming? Right. Did you see the strikes going on and that Ukraine did against the Russians?
Yeah. I mean, it made sense from a war perspective, unless, if you want the war to continue.
Oh, yeah, they escalated for sure.
Yeah.
It also shows this chilling use of drones. And I saw an article, I've talked about this before, but I saw this other article about the future of warfare. And you'd have a drone the size of your phone, less than this, so smaller than this, with a very small charge of directed explosives. And on that drone has facial recognition. Now, it may not be facial recognition for a certain person, or it could be. Yeah. And the guy showed it actually in this demo. Thing goes up. It recognizes the face of the person that's sitting on the stage, goes right in there, right on the forehead, detonates, directed blast, clears out the head. And that's the future right there. That's the scary part.
Right.
And so I think not only is it an escalation of this war by Ukraine and going after these planes from Russia, even when they're going into a peace negotiation, they're escalating this war. It's the chilling fact that drone warfare is, just like plane warfare revolutionized warfare in World War II, where battleships became obsolete. Yeah. Unless we have a defense against drones, it's game over, man. Not just for the United States, anybody, whoever has got these drones, carrier, imagine a drone carrier that just releases millions of drones or thousands of drones, and there's some thousands of these things. It's chilling. It's really sad.
Yeah, I seen the video of Ukraine dropping hand grenades on very precisely down small holes with drone technology.
Oh, really?
So they would fly over an individual and drop a grenade down their air hole because they're hiding underground.
Sure.
And then, boom, kills whoever's in there. And they're very precise because they can sit there and just hover and get accurate. And they're quiet enough where you don't know they're there. But yeah, you're right. It's going to be, that's the future. You're going to have all these people in, somewhere else, in the Dakotas or whatever, playing their little iPods, dropping bombs on people.
Could be. It's potential. That's why we need this golden dome they've been talking about.
Yeah, and a way to figure out how to kill the drones.
Yeah.
You know, a household version.
Right. That would be nice to have like a shield, right?
Right.
All right. I'm going to bring up one more international story, unless you have more after this. I want to talk about 2 Chinese nationals have been charged for allegedly smuggling a dangerous biological pathogen in the United States called I'm not even going to try it. That could cripple the U.S. economy, food supply, and endanger American lives. This fungus, it's a noxious fungus that causes head blight, a disease of wheat, barley, maize, and rice. Maize. We call that corn.
Yeah.
And is responsible for billions of dollars in economic losses worldwide each year. And they were trying to smuggle this into the United States, and they got caught. That's almost an act of war.
Yeah, it definitely is. If they're going to do billions of dollars worth of economic damage and destroy the food supply.
And sicken people as well.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing. I mean, there's a few things that are really bad, but being dizzy or having your head hurting, that's like you want to commit suicide almost. So that was scary. And that's how I'm going to end the international news, unless you have something fun to talk about.
No, Walz hasn't stayed in the United States, so I'm sure he'll go do some international embarrassment pretty soon. So we can use him for the next time.
Let's talk health and fitness. I don't have anything specifically to talk about. I've gone running a couple times in the smoke-filled air of Duluth, and I've gone to hit the weights a pathetic 1 time again a week, which is really tough to do because when you go there, you just don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
So you got to go at least twice a week, if not 3, to make any progress. But I'm going. I hate it. I'm going. How about you?
Yeah, I had a good week. I had the only day I missed was Saturday, but I was either doing weights or I was doing cardio outside. So this week was pretty good. So
yeah, everybody, we say this every week, but please go out, be active. Make yourself better. Go out for a walk if it's anything. Walk around your house if you have to, but get motivated. Get your blood up. Honestly, it may not be fun while you're doing it, but there are benefits to it even after you do it. I feel better today having gone and worked out. I didn't feel good at the time. I did get to take a sauna, so I did have that. That really is all I really want.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were at the gym because when I was there last night, all the weights came back. Everything was organized.
That's true. It was me.
We had lost all the 10s for
Yes.
the free weights, so those came back. So it was
That was me.
I knew Sean was there. So
all right, let's wrap it up here. I'm just going to tell everybody that next week I'm going to be interviewing Adam Schwartz, and he is a candidate for Minnesota U.S. Senate. And he's going to come in here and we're going to have a discussion. I'm going to get to know him. I don't know anything about him. I'm not saying I'm endorsing him right now. What I'm saying is I'm going to get to know him, and everything I see about him looks really good. He was born in Minnesota. He was a Marine and Navy SEAL. So a lot of good things on the resume there. I can't wait to talk to him and find out more about him. And I'll try to ask some good questions and people can learn about him some more next week. I may not do that live. I may schedule that and do it later as just a podcast. But I want to end up with thank you for watching. If you are watching, if you've watched this, please like and subscribe, tell your friends. We really appreciate it. I'm not doing this for anything else other than to make sure people can hear news stories they might not have heard about, have a different perspective, and find out that guys in Minnesota maybe necessarily aren't in the Democratic Party. I know it's tough to believe. Yep. If you watch the news in another state, you're not going to think that's the case, but it is the case, especially in Duluth.
We want to encourage people to, if you hear something, go verify it. Even your belief system, go verify. Everything we do here, we fact check. We make sure that we have to look up every story to make sure that we're correct, and it's not not fake, and it's part of the conservative belief system. So, if you, just because someone says something or you read something online, don't believe it. Go in, do some in-depth research on it, figure out if it's true or not, and then make up your mind once you have all the facts. Because like the local news, they're not going to give you all the facts. They're going to give you headline stuff. We like to go a little deeper, but definitely do your research on this stuff.
Yeah, even the stuff you hear from us. I mean, we're looking at news articles that other people have posted. We're not actually out there on the street. So some stuff we'll get it wrong too, but I will put the links of the news articles we're talking about in my comments. So you can go look at those. And then if we're wrong, let us know. I mean, I'm okay saying I'm wrong. I've been married for a long time. I've been wrong every year. All right. So until then, so next week we're going to do this again at 6:00. Thank you for joining us. Until then, I'm Sean.
I'm Dave.
I'm going to throw a shock out for people and say Maui no kae, Duluth no kae. That means Maui's the best, Duluth is the best. Put that through your brain. Both the best. All right. We'll talk to you later. See you next week and have a good weekend.